Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Youth Man. Today, I'm extremely excited to talk about JTR's brand new Captivator RS2 subwoofers. Now, before we dive into the video, I want to give a big thanks to my patrons, and in particularly, one of my patrons, Jason Zimmerman. Jason has been a longtime supporter on Patreon and has an incredible home theater. I've actually had a chance to visit his home theater. Now, Jason has some beautiful Focal speakers. It's been powered by Marantz AV7705 as well as Anthem amplifiers, and he just got a brand new Power Sound Audio TV3612 subwoofer. Now, if you'd like to get your home theater or 2-channel setup featured and mentioned here on the Youthman channel, head over to patreon.com/youthman to check out all the details. So guys, I've spent the past 2 hours literally with this on my face. Man, I have been smiling from ear to ear. What have I been doing? I've been playing with the JTR Captivator RS2 subwoofers, and one of my biggest tests, right here, Modern Warfare Call of Duty. This game is ridiculous on the JTR subs. Holy cow. So in this video, I just want to kind of share with you some thoughts, my initial thoughts. This isn't a final review, but I want to kind of give you an update. A lot of you guys have been asking, Michael, what do you think about the JTRs? You've got to have some thoughts. You got to have some opinions, and I do. First and foremost, these things are enormous. They each weigh 220 pounds. They each have dual 18-inch woofers in them and a big old massive 4,000 watt amp. Now, originally, I wanted to get the JTRs up off the floor and put them behind my 150-inch screen. Now, initially, I thought that was going to be a really big deal and kind of difficult to get my dual SVS PB16s off from the platform and to bring up those massive JTR subwoofers. It was actually much easier than I had anticipated. My son, his friend, as well as myself were easily able to lean the subwoofer over, pick it up from the bottom, lay it on the shelf, and slide it gently into place. It was actually much easier than I thought it was going to be. We did the same thing for the other side and got everything set up. Now, once I got the RS2s in place, of course, I reran Odyssey, wanted to make sure that everything was calibrated for those subwoofers, checked my levels with my SPL meter, got those balanced out, and then I also make some tweaks to my crossovers as well. After that, I fired up the laptop, opened up REW, which is Room EQ Wizard, basically made some frequency sweeps, and during the frequency sweeps, I've discovered something that was pretty stinking cool. During the first sweep, my door to the theater room began to shake. Check this out. We're going to be using some software called REW. We're going to generate a 10 hertz sine wave. We're going to see what happens to my door. Check this out. So my door is literally shaking. Open up the door, come outside, and shut it. That's some crazy bass. I've never experienced that in my theater before. I've had the dual PB16s and I've cranked the mess out of them. I've also had the Power Sound Audio S3611 that also had dual 18s, but I only had a single one of those, and neither one of those situations, I even had the Monolith M215 that has dual 15s. I've never heard my door shake until these JTRs, man. That was a trip. Now I know what Scott Newby has kind of going on in his setup. He's got a full-fledged JTR setup, lots of subwoofers, man. I watched a video today of his setup. The room right above his theater room, everything shakes in that room.
Yeah, you feel bad for his house.
So JTR is making some crazy, ridiculous subwoofers with some insane output. Now, one thing that I get asked a lot is, how do the JTRs, being sealed, how does that compare with the SVS PB16s? And honestly, guys, they don't. They really don't. SVS, I really enjoy. I've had them in my home theater for probably over a year now. Bought those, love them. They sound great. They've got a lot of output. But honestly, the biggest thing the PB16 lacks is that really low extension. Once you hit about 20 hertz, they begin to kind of fall off pretty quickly. I mean, they'll go down to, I think, about 17 hertz or so, but they definitely don't go much lower than that. They start losing output pretty quickly. Now, because of that, the PB16s really don't handle really low frequencies that well. For example, in the beginning of Edge of Tomorrow, before the movie even starts, there's some crazy sequence of bass frequencies. Now, these hit a certain note, then they go lower, then lower, then lower. I think there's about 5 notes there. So by the time we get to that last frequency, that lowest note, the PB16s really struggle with that. The biggest issue is port chuffing. Port chuffing is basically when you get this kind of, there's too much air trying to escape a port, and so it makes this flopping kind of sound, and honestly, it just doesn't sound that great. And so the PB16 isn't the end-all sub. I mean, they make a great subwoofer, but there's definitely some better subs out there, and these JTRs absolutely by far leave the PB16 in the dust. So I wanted to see, how do the JTRs, how do they handle that scene? So if you play this demo, make sure you start off with a volume pretty low. I started at about -30, then I worked my way up to about -25, 20, and I think I got up to about -15, and that was all I needed. That was plenty. And at -15 on my AV7705, the Marantz, this room was shaking. Matter of fact, I've got a demo of that as well. Check it out. So as you can see in that video and here, there was a lot of rattling going on in this room. Now, of course, my front wall is made of wood, and so there's some places on there that I need to kind of tighten up, but my door was shaking. There was a lot going on in this room, and so you hear a lot of vibrations. These JTR subs are no joke, man. They're putting out a lot of pressure, a lot of SPL, and honestly, they handled that scene flawlessly. I mean, there was no, of course, there's no port chuffing because there's no ports, but it was just super clean. Lots of output, lots of impact, but very, very tight, very, very clean. The lowest frequency had no problem handling that at all. Now, the distortion that you heard in the clip, that was basically from this microphone. I didn't have my Zoom H4n set up. I just wanted to do a quick demo of that. I wasn't really concerned about the audio. You're not going to get a good feel of what I'm experiencing in this room, but I did want to give you an audio clip of that so that you could see and hear that. So as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, dude, I put in Call of Duty and I began to play one of the later missions in that. Man, shooting even with silencers. So if you've got a weapon that has a suppressor on it, you would think that that wouldn't be that impactful, right? It's supposed to be quiet. Wrong. Every time I pulled the trigger, man, it was like, goo, goo. I mean, it was crazy in here. Stuff when it was blowing up, man, my room was blowing up. But one thing I really began to appreciate about the sealed subwoofer is it wasn't like so overbearing. It wasn't overwhelming. It was integrated very well. Now, one thing I try to do, and I always encourage people to do, is the only time that you should ever notice your subwoofers is when you turn them off. And what I mean by that is you should have your subwoofers calibrated in such a way that you never can point to where the subwoofers are. If you can hear physically, okay, the subwoofer's over in that corner, or maybe it's back here in this corner, you've got your subwoofers not balanced with your system. You should have solid bass, strong bass, impactful bass deep bass, but you shouldn't be able to tell where it's at in your room. And that was the case with the JTRs. They were incredibly impactful. It blended seamlessly though with my setup, man. I was extremely impressed with that. Now, I'm not a big gamer, but man, if you don't have this game, go get it. It is incredible, especially if you got a killer home theater setup. So this thing will rock your socks off. So I'll leave a link to it down in the description below. If you haven't picked that up, definitely go pick that up. PlayStation 4, of course, isn't sponsoring this video. Hey, PlayStation, if you want to, hit me up sometime, but they're not. But this is a killer game, guys. Go check it out. It's awesome. Now, I'll be making several other videos on the JTR RS2s, so make sure you're subscribed to the channel. And as always, you guys be blessed, and we'll catch you in the next video.